Can you believe Robin Gibb kept a stunning secret from his fans and the world for decades? It's completely unbelievable. The missing piece of the puzzle was a secret. He kept quiet about what everyone had been guessing until he was 62 years old. Robin Gibb's incredible voice and enigmatic aura made him a key member of the iconic band Bee Gees. What, though, was concealed beneath that exterior? We should dive in and see what happens. The Gibb brothers were three gifted young men who formed a close bond through their love of music, harmony, and performing. They were the modest originators of the Bee Gees. In December of 1949, Robin and his twin brother Maurice were born. Later on, they would join forces with their older brother Barry to establish a band. Music didn't capture the lads' hearts until the 1950s. The siblings listened to legendary artists like Elvis Presley, Tommy Steele, the Everly Brothers, and more by borrowing recordings from their elder sister Leslie. Using boxes as instruments, they staged a pretend performance. In 1956, the brothers debuted in front of an audience at the nearby Gaumont Theater. They brought their sister's recordings as all the kids could pantomime songs. Paul Frost and Kenny Ricks, two youngsters from the neighborhood, formed a practice group they dubbed the Rattlesnakes. The sound technician tripped and broke Leslie's record just before their performance. The brothers' luck is truly unfortunate. However, when faced with a little difficulty, the Gibb brothers weren't the kind to back down. They proceeded to perform as Barry strung his actual guitar, which was a godsend. All the kids ended up loving it before they even knew it. It was at that moment that the brothers' desire to pursue singing and get discovered took flight. Following the departures of Paul Frost and Kenny Horrocks, the Rattlesnakes announced their disbandment in May 1958. However, the Gibb brothers had no intention of stopping. Wee Johnny Hayes and the Blue Cats was the name of their reformed band, and Barry became known as Johnny Hayes on stage. A new chapter in the family's story began in August 1958. Leaving England, they set out for Australia, hoping for a new beginning. Redcliffe, a coastal town in Queensland, Australia, located just northeast of Brisbane, became the family's permanent home. Andy and Leslie were the younger siblings. In 1959, the brothers kept going to Redcliffe Speedway to keep pursuing music. There they sang songs that bridged racial lines. One of the race car drivers, Bill Good, became interested in this. Because of his admiration, he reached out to DJ Bill Gates, who concurred that the children's innate harmony made them unique. After that, Gates put their music on tape and broadcast it on the radio. Bill Good, Barry Gibb, and Gates all have an initial, therefore he thought it would be a good name for the group. The name Bee Gees was eventually changed to the Gibb Brothers. Ultimately, Hugh, their dad, took over as manager. Prior to their achievement, Hugh supported himself through his photography company. He was a manager who chose to focus on his sons above all else. They appeared on popular Australian TV shows such as Anything Goes in Brisbane Tonight, which helped them gain fame at this stage. Further, Robin and his siblings were regulars at nightclubs, pubs, and theaters for their performances. While Mom Barbara chose their clothing, Dad taught them Mills Brothers songs while they were little. Regardless, their success was minimal at best. American songwriter and producer Nat Kipner introduced the brothers to the music industry. At Spin Records, a young indie label, he had recently been appointed a D&R manager. As a result of his admiration, Kipner had faith in the Bee Gees' abilities. He became their manager, eager to see them succeed, and oversaw the transition from performing at festivals to spinning records. They considered this adjustment to be significant. The Bee Gees got a new start with Spin Records, yet they continued to deal with festival records for distribution in Australia. Ossie Byrne, a gifted engineer who shared Kipner's faith in the brothers' potential, was contacted through Kipner. The recording sessions began at Byrne's warm, purpose-built studio at St. Clair Studios in Hurstville, Sydney. The studio wasn't particularly spectacular, but it allowed the Bee Gees plenty of room to experiment and define their sound. They began to build a following at this period. With the release of Spicks and Specks, their first single in Australia, they reached number 35 on the charts. They were moving at a very consistent speed. A significant event occurred in February of 1967. Robert Stigwood was the Bee Gees audition judge. An influential person in the music business with an aptitude for discovering new artists. After the Bee Gees' successful audition, Stigwood offered them a 5-year contract. This paved the way for their music to be released internationally through Polydor Records in the UK and Atco Records in the US. They entered a new phase of their lives with great backing, but the anticipation and strain were palpable as people began comparing them to the Beatles. The Bee Gees were primed and eager to make it big. They expanded their sonic palette with the addition of Colin Peterson and Vince Maloney, who fortified their band. New York mining disaster 1941, their subsequent song in the UK, caused quite a commotion. There were suggestions that it might be a new Beatles release when radio stations got copies without labels, simply the song title. Audiences were captivated by the air of secrecy surrounding the song. And the 1,941-inch New York mining catastrophe single swiftly rose through the ranks, hitting the top 20 in the United Kingdom and the United States. For the Bee Gees, who had been waiting for such acclaim, this was a watershed moment. At last, they were gaining the attention of critics and fans around the world. The Bee Gees rode that wave of success through a series of highs and lows, critical praise and heavy scrutiny. The band overcame internal conflicts and creative disagreements as they fought tirelessly to establish themselves in the music industry. They were planning a massive 7-week tour of the United States in 1968, right when their fame was at its height. However, Robin Gibb suffered a collapse and needed to visit the hospital just before it began. Because of all the pressure he had gone through, he was determined to have nervous weariness. The Bee Gees were thus forced to make some difficult choices regarding their lineup and future as a result of this. After Robin's departure, Barry and Maurice continued to compose music, but it lacked his distinctive voice. Things became increasingly heated, and they had disagreements about ideas as time passed. The disagreements reached a fever pitch on May 1st when Robin insisted that Lamplight take center stage. In 1969, Robin opted to pursue a solo career after feeling marginalized by the Bee Gees. Attempts were made by Barry and Maurice to continue without him. However, they could sense his absence. It was a bittersweet first performance without Robin at London's Talk of the Town. They continued to record Cucumber Castle without Robin, but her absence was noticeable. The solo success of Robin's song Saved by the Bell prompted speculation about the future of the Bee Gees. Barry and Maurice had a tough time keeping the duo together as Robin's solo career took off. They began investigating potential solo projects but encountered several obstacles. Fans began to worry if the Bee Gees would ever reform after the brothers, who were formerly very close, began to go their separate ways. Their strained relationship started to heal by the mid-1970s. Barry spent his time in Spain thinking back on all that had transpired. After their dispute, Maurice wanted to make amends with Robin, so he contacted her. And the Bee Gees were reunited, prepared to make music as a trio again. Thanks to that little act, their get-together was fruitful. Their 1971 eighth studio album, Trafalgar, featured the smash hit How Can You Mend a Broken Heart? The band was able to recover from personal and professional setbacks with the support of this song, which catapulted them back into the UK top 10. The Bee Gees surprised fans in the 1970s by joining the disco trend, a move that highlighted Barry's incredible falsetto. Their inclusion on the Saturday Night Fever soundtrack solidified their position in music history, and songs like You Should Be Dancing truly marked a pivotal time for them. The Bee Gees' music continued to resonate with listeners even as the 1970s came to a close and disco lost some of its luster. Their status as music industry icons is undeniable, making an impression that would outlive them. The Bee Gees had significant challenges as the disco culture began to decline towards the end of 1979. After a brief surge in popularity, disco music quickly fell out of favor among both listeners and reviewers. Because of their inextricable link to disco, the Bee Gees struggled to adapt to this new era. Enduring disco's demise at the hands of radio stations and listeners. Additionally, they had to deal with legal issues after an artist claimed they stole parts of their famous song How Deep Is Your Love. Since the Bee Gees failed to present sufficient expert evidence to bolster their defense, the court first sided with the accused. However, the decision was reversed a few months later, and they were exonerated of all charges. Despite the fact that their emotions were deeply affected by the entire experience, the Bee Gees persevered through adversity by being true to themselves, which allowed them to maintain their passion for performing and their unique bond with their audience. By including Andy Gibb's voice on their song Our Love, Don't Throw It All Away, they paid tribute to their late brother at one of their performances. Everyone in the audience was moved to tears by the touching tribute, which brought back memories of Andy's spirit and the strong link between the brothers. As a result of this moving experience, the Bee Gees came to terms with the extraordinary bond they shared with their audience. With the encouragement of their fans, Barry, Robin, and Maurice embarked on a world tour titled One Night Only. They were able to revitalize their careers and re-establish contact with their worldwide fan base thanks to the tour's enormous success. The tour refocused the Bee Gees' efforts, and they continued to play, reaching new heights of fame. However, the burden of health problems began to mount on the group as time progressed. The band's soul and comic relief, Maurice Gibb, had some unanticipated health problems in 2002. Tragically, he passed away while hospitalized, which grieved Barry and Robin. The departure of Maurice meant that the Bee Gees could no longer continue as a trio. In memory of Maurice, the brothers decided to terminate their illustrious musical career by retiring the Bee Gees moniker. Even though Barry and Robin were devastated by his death, their passion for music and each other stayed strong. Following Maurice's passing, Barry and Robin did not perform together again until 2006. Not for a major concert, but for a deeply meaningful Miami charity event. They demonstrated their resiliency and dedication to their family's musical heritage in that one tremendous yet humble moment. Robin had his own health struggles in the years that came after. He continued to battle behind closed doors, despite his deteriorating health following his liver cancer diagnosis. He inspired everyone with his bravery and perseverance as he remained in touch with his followers even after struggling and postponing performances. He spilled the beans in an interview with Robin Gibb, who is Robin's son, and nobody knew. Evidently, not a single news organization got it right. Robin, his father, did not die of cancer. He mentioned that he has already achieved remission, and the malignancy was hardly undetectable. He passed away because of kidney failure. This might shed light on the significant discrepancy between the late singer's February remarks regarding his cancer and his March health deterioration. Others may have been alarmed, believing that if Gibb's health could improve so rapidly, perhaps theirs could as well. In an interview with the BBC back in early February, Robin Gibb revealed that he was feeling fantastic after having a tumor removed from his colon. After that, he was active and generally felt excellent. All that remained were some cleaning operations. After experiencing such a good energy, his admirers were left perplexed when he transitioned from being in a coma in April to passing unexpectedly in May. Was he merely avoiding dealing with the reality of his sickness, or had it appeared curable before it became fatal? Both were false, said Robin Gibb. Though it undoubtedly worsened as a result of the strain that cancer and its harsh treatment imposed on Robin's body, his kidney failure was an independent condition. Robin Gibb expressed his displeasure with the decisions made by the medical staff and their divergent views on how to care for his dying father, according to the Daily Express. His father was doing okay until he had a seizure 3 days before he died, which the Sun told the publication. His liver couldn't take the weight of sedatives given to him to control the ill effects of his chemotherapy, according to Robin Gibb. His kidneys began to feel the effects of his rapidly deteriorating condition as well. His father eventually succumbed to complications related to kidney and liver failure. Even as he lay in a coma, Dwina Gibb was fighting her own battle. The couple's marriage has been publicly acknowledged. Their previous domestic, with whom he had a child, has spoken publicly about her attraction to women. However, it is evident that their affection for one another remains strong after 28 years. Unexpected events occurred in Robin's life in 2009 following the birth of their daughter, Snow Robin Gibb, to maid Claire Yang, who was around half his age. According to reports, Dwina, an artist, writer, and Druid priestess, was reportedly very distressed by their non-traditional marriage. Dwina was furious when the truth came out. To say that her response was exaggerated would be a major understatement. Betrayed to her core, she felt. It is believed that Robin Gibb's estate is worth more than $140 million. He had one son with Dwina, Robin John. It would appear that Robin's first marriage to Molly Hullis produced two children, a son called Spencer and a girl named Melissa. He was unable to handle the limelight, and his 12-year marriage to Hullis, a secretary for the Bee Gees' ex-manager, ended in divorce. Robin had little contact with their children for a long time after she gained custody of them. They reconnected when he was 12 and 10 years old, respectively. He had previously tied the knot with Dwina, whom he had met in 1980 through her cousin, while she pursued her artistic ambitions while working at a beanbag manufacturer in London. The Gibb brothers' relationship was another closely guarded secret. Robin stole the show when the Bee Gees were first starting out. It strained relations with Barry to the point where he temporarily separated from the group in the late 1960s. The three brothers became one of the most iconic musical groups of the disco era in the 1970s once he returned. Although the stress inspired them to create new things, it tore them apart emotionally and ultimately led to a permanent estrangement between Robin and Barry. Unfortunately, this disagreement persisted throughout Robin's cancer fight and ultimately led to his death. At Robin's funeral, Barry delivered a moving eulogy in which he expressed his deep regret for their shattered relationship. Barry made the heartbreaking choice to continue the work they had started together after Robin passed away. In 2013, he embarked on his first solo tour, which went beyond just performing. It was an emotional tribute to his brothers and the incredible trip they went on. Their music, love, and unbreakable friendship were celebrated in each song, which developed into a lively ode. A major step in ensuring the Bee Gees' music would be available to listeners long into the future was taken by Capitol Records in 2016, when they inked a deal to do just that. Their music continued to uplift listeners and bring together generations of followers, even as they went through difficult periods in their own lives. Their classic songs revolve around a timeless tale of brothers, perseverance, and an enduring legacy.